Guys like Christmas music, don't you? I did that just to make some of you mad because, October 1st rolls around. I start playing Christmas music. I'm one of those guys, right? I get out the hunting gear for bow season, get the rifles ready for next month for gun season, and then instantly start playing Christmas music. That was a little Mannheim Steamroller showing my age there. Didn't have anything else on the Roadcaster to play, but I don't know. We could play on Fresh from the Fresh segment. Got a little Timothy Brindle here. What do you guys think about this? There we go. Okay. Maybe I should have started with this. There we go. Okay, that's enough of that. Well, guys, welcome to the live stream. Just wanted to jump on here, talk about the Fight Laugh Feast conference coming up October 31st through November 2nd. We're going to be down in Fort Worth, Texas, the Will Rogers Center for the Reformation Day style Fight Laugh Feast Prodigal America conference. I've been to every one of these, and I just want to give you a little history on this too, because I have been to a lot of conferences. I've been to National G3 conference. I've been to some Jeffrey Rice conferences. I'm hosting one in February. And this one, it holds a special place in my heart because back in 2020, when we started this podcast in April of 2020, no one knew who we were, just another random guy starting a podcast. And I had been following Cross Politic and kind of had read some Doug Wilson books and things like that. And I messaged the guys from Cross Politic and said, hey, want to come down to your very first conference? I think it was early October. Everyone else is shutting down things for COVID, but Gabe and Chocolate Knox, Toby Sumter, and those guys said, nope, we're holding the conference. Come on down. We're going to, fight, laugh, and feast and glorify God. And we were five months old as a podcast and went down there. And I called up the guys anyway. And he said, hey, can I bring my podcast gear? Just started a podcast. They said, sure. And I was the only podcast there. 1,000 guys showed up. They had a few vendors. It was the first Fight Laugh Feast they ever did. They put Dead Men Walking right at the entrance and the exit of this huge arena. Everyone was coming up to my booth because we had 4 microphones going. We had the Roadcaster there. We had the backdrop, and they all thought it was not all, but many people thought it was my conference. And I kept going, no. This is, Cross Politic. This is Fight Laugh Feast. And I say that because those guys, Gabe and Chocolate Knox and Sumter, were very gracious to this podcast and in many ways legitimized the podcast, a 5-month-old podcast with just a few hundred listeners, and allowed us to come down there, really jumpstart what I'm doing on this podcast by having guys like the guys from Cross Politic coming on the podcast, Doug Wilson, Jeff Durbin, Darren Doan, Greg Bonson. I mean, these guys just hopped on the podcast, really legitimized what I was doing. So I'm always forever grateful for those guys for seeing another brother in the Lord, not looking at it and saying, oh, that's competition or that's another podcast, but saying, let's embrace a guy who's pulling in the same direction, bring him in, and really helped in the early stages of the podcast. And I have to tell you, that first Fight Laugh Feast was absolutely insane, that Fight Laugh Feast conference, because it really felt a little like you were a rebel. I mean, everyone else losing their minds during COVID. We went down there, in a venue that said, no, you don't have to wear masks. No, you can still gather. No, do your thing. We had an impromptu after party by Darren Doan. At that time, he was buying the first round for everyone. We took over a 500 guys, mostly guys. There were some wives and some children there too. Took over like a gastro pub with an outdoor seating area. We were singing psalms. We were buying rounds. We're smoking cigars and pipes and preaching and debating theology and doctrine. And it was something out of a movie. It was like, really what I could only liken it to is it had that feel of what it must have been for the reformers to go down to their pub and they're hashing out theology and over a pint. And it was something crazy. It really just stuck in my mind. And that's really what every Fight Laugh Feast has been after that. You have had so many copycats since 2020 of what the Fight Laugh Feast conferences are. They were the first to do Baron Psalms. Okay. They were the first to do after party. They were the first to bring in, 5, 6, 7 major speakers that now have hundreds of millions of followers. They really have broken a lot of people onto the kind of reformed Christian conservative scene. Now, all those words mean different things to different people. I know that. I've talked about it at length in my podcast, but I mean, these guys were showing you who like Steve Deace was before Steve Deace was Steve Deace. Now he's a $10,000 to $20,000 a night speaker. Obviously he had Blaze TV, but they really introduced kind of that mindset and that personality. Jason Whitlock, for instance, the resurgence of George Grant. And a lot of these guys are going to be at that conference at the end of this month. And I wanted to jump on because I'm helping run Media Row for them. So for any of you podcasters out there, I want you to get a hold of me. DM me if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter X. Message me, get a hold of me, or go to DMW Podcast. You can text me there or send me a message there as well. We want to get you there because we have a very specific Media Row now for just podcasters, just media. It's kind of like the media outlet. It's going to be all in the same area. Guest speakers are encouraged to go talk to the podcast, jump on, allow those maybe up and coming podcasts to get a guest that has a big draw, to ask them the questions they want to ask them, and really help podcasts out. And then on top of that, you're going to have established podcasts there as well too. I know guys like Eschatology Matters going to be there. Will Spencer, Rena Men's going to be there. I mean, some very big podcasts as well. Obviously, Cross Politics does a live show there. We will be there. Dead Men Walking podcast. But Media Row is going to be something special. Then we have like 50, 60, 70 sponsors as well that will have their booths set up. And I just wanted to give you a couple things. We're going to be in Will Rogers Memorial Center, Fort Worth, Texas, from October 31st to November 2nd. And remember, you can still get tickets for that. You can get tickets at Fight Laugh Feast Network. It's flfnetwork.com. Tickets are still available. I mean, we got a couple thousand people coming, but it's growing every year. They're going to have food trucks. We're going to have the Beer and Psalms is open to anyone for the first night on that Thursday night. So if you're local to the Fort Worth area and you're a church and you want to come, just announce, this is brand new. I was just on a call this morning with the organizers. It's open to anyone. So if you want to come sing psalms with us, have a beer, have some wine, the attendance is absolutely free for locals, so make sure you come on to that. But guest speakers, David Reese from AR 500. I mean, a phenomenal business owner and speaker in his own right and pastor. Dr. James White, Alpha Omega Ministries. He's going to be there. Of course, Doug Wilson will be there. Dusty Devers, our Reformed Baptist brother, who's now a state senator in Oklahoma. He will be there. Of course, Toby Sumner, Chocolate Knox, Gabe Wrench from the Cross Politic crew. They're going to be there and doing a live episode, which is always fun. Steve Deace, like I mentioned, Blaze TV, he'll be there. George Grant, prolific author. If you don't know who George Grant is, make sure you go Google him and get some of his books. Darren Doan from Doan Creative. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on. And the Fight Laugh Feast Network has been one of the few conferences that bring you multiple quality speakers. And we're all kind of pulling in the same direction in kind of how we think, not all the same denomination. You're gonna have some Baptists there, some Presbyterians there, but they're all pulling in the same direction when it comes to uh, how we look at America, how America needs to turn from its wicked ways. Thus, Prodigal America is the theme of this year's conference. But what's really cool is they were the first to do Baron Psalms, which is a phenomenal time. We take an hour or two at the very beginning of the first evening of the conference. Sometimes they'll have a musical director there, and his name is slipping me now, but a few years in a row, it's been the musical director, I think, at Christ Church, and he is phenomenal. We all sing a cappella, and he teaches us the parts, and we have the printouts, and we're singing psalms, and everyone maybe has a drink in their hand, and it's all to the glory of God, and it's very interesting, very cool. And then the after party is phenomenal. We go out to a local place. I think I just heard this morning that there's going to be a beer truck there that's buying everyone drinks for the first for the first round at the after party, which is awesome. I've sponsored that in the past as Dead Man Walking, but this year, don't know the gentleman's name, but I'll make sure I tag it. Here's the crazy thing. Also on Thursday, we have a business makers luncheon. You have some of the biggest shakers and movers and influencers in the Reformed Christian world that are going to be there. You can sign up for that as well as part of the package. I would highly recommend it. If you are an influencer at where you work, if you own your own business, if you're an entrepreneur, the connections made in this room, the networking in this room is worth the price of admission alone. On top of that, they're going to be giving some talks and some kind of institutional knowledge on how to move forward, how to be an entrepreneur, how to run a business, how to make those connections. It's been very beneficial for me. I will be at that as well. I've noticed there's a common theme among a lot of my Reformed brothers that a lot of them are either the decision makers or influencers at a place of business that they work, or they own the business outright, or they're on a team that is in a small business that's entrepreneurial in spirit. They just kind of go hand in hand, kind of with the Dominion mandate and with the world that we're living in. We don't want to be beholden to pagan and secular bosses. We create our own thing, and a lot of times we create things that are better. I own my own real estate brokerage, Covenant Real Estate. Hey, if you're in Michigan, Ohio, looking for real estate, make sure you give me a call. Shameless self-promotion. Or if you're selling or investing in commercial, residential, or vacant land, let me know. But that goes hand in hand. We as believers tend to find ourselves in that realm of doing things on our own, building things with our own two hands, running businesses, creating startups, creating products and services, and then maybe selling them off or transferring them to other people and then starting something new. And that business luncheon on Thursday, the Business Makers Luncheon, is going to be phenomenal. I would say if you're thinking about coming to this conference, get the whole package and go Thursday through essentially Sunday. It's Saturday night, but stay till Sunday if you can. But like I said, this is probably one of my favorite conferences, if not the favorite. It's the one I've been going to the longest. I've been going since 2020, every single one. Like I said, I'm now helping out on Media Row. So if you're a podcaster, get a hold of me because I want to hook you up too with a little VIP thank you and get you at the booth so you can be podcasting live from there. All the speakers of this conference are encouraged to go down Media Row and sit on those podcasts. So I want you guys as a new podcaster, maybe a podcast that's been around a while, I want you guys to experience what I experienced in 2020. Newer podcast, wanted to have people on my podcast that not only were a draw, but were obviously intellectual and know their subject matter and could hold a conversation for a half hour, an hour. And that's what Fight Laugh Feast did for me in 2020. I mean, when you're a 5-month-old podcast and you get to have Jeff Durbin on and Luke is it Wilson? Luke Pearson, excuse me, Doug Wilson on, Darren Doan, these type of guys, Greg Bonson, the cross-politic guys, and they're all on your podcast. That's what they really tried to encourage at these podcasts. I went to the G3 national conference and it was very quarantined. I mean, it was like if you wanted to talk to anyone, they were behind velvet ropes. They would go behind stage right after. the feel of this conference is not that at all. I mean, we are fighting, we are laughing, we are feasting. The speakers are down with the people, so to speak. They're in Media Row and they're talking, they're giving interviews, they're discussing things, they're showing up at after parties, they're going out to eat. I mean, for a larger conference like this, you can get that feel at the smaller conferences too. 100 people attend. It's very intimate. This is a larger, I mean, there's gonna be 1,500 people, maybe 2,000 people there, but it still feels like we're running, like you're among the rebels, like you're among the, alliance or something like, like we're doing something we shouldn't be doing. And it's rowdy and it's fun and we're all pulling in the same direction. But just to let you guys know, for those that just jumped on, I saw a tick up in numbers of people watching. Some of the lineup for the Fight Laugh Feast conference at the Will Rogers Center in Fort Worth, Texas. Go to flfnetwork.com to buy your tickets today. Is David Reese, James White, Doug Wilson, Dusty Devers, Toby Sumner, Chocolate Knox, Gabe Wrench, Steve Dace, George Grant, Darren Doan. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And of course, we'll be there, Dead Men Walking. We will be live podcasting from there, organizing Media Row, making sure all our podcasts are set up. And then some of the podcasts that I saw that will be there. Someone just said, so not celebrities. I get annoyed by roped off preachers. Oh, Ed Romine. I agree. I'm going to tell you, I got some brothers over at G3 that I still do talk to, and they've been on the podcast and I love them. But the way that national conference was set up, I think they were told at the beginning, like, don't talk to anyone, do your sermon, do your preaching, and then just come back in the green room and don't really go amongst the people. The only two guys that I really saw out walking around in 2021 was James White and Vodi Bakum. Vodi opted not to do any interviews for that conference. James White did a few. But other than that, most of them were walled off and kind of, that's not the vibe. That's not the feel. That's not what you're going to get at a Fight Laugh Feast conference. They're very open to making sure that their speakers are walking down Media Row, talking to the podcasters, talking to the attendees, taking pictures, or if you do that, I'm not a big picture taker. Well, I've done a few, but talking to the attendees, jumping on the podcast. Here's a cool thing that Fight Laugh Feast is doing for the first time ever, and we're doing at Media Row. Fight Laugh Feast, the network, as a network, is going to send out to all the attendees. Okay, we got 1,500 attendees so far. All the attendees are going to send out a little form and go, why should you be interviewed on one of our 20 or 30 established podcasts that will be there to reach their audience of millions of people? Have you wrote a book? Have you done something? Are you working on this? Are you in this weird niche that no one knows about, that needs to know about it? They're going to be sending it out to the attendees and go, tell us why you should be featured as a guest on a podcast. And I'm going to tell you something. This is a beautiful idea. It's a smart, intelligent idea, because I have met so many attendees at these Fight Laugh Feast rallies or conferences. And I've actually had a few of them on the podcast. Like, hey, you've got to jump on my podcast and talk about what you're doing. And it's been phenomenal numbers for me introducing this new person who no one knows about, really, because they don't have a podcast. They're doing their thing, man. They're building stuff in the kingdom, and they got their head down, and they go, yeah, I'll come on and talk about it. I've had guys who've created businesses to compete with PayPal in the Christian world that have gotten a great response from my listeners that went, I never knew that was even a thing. How is he doing that? Right. And it just doesn't have to be entrepreneurs or business owners that jump on the podcast. I'm saying, if you're doing something that is unique, that is different, that you want people to hear about, we're going to send out a form to you, and we want, a quick survey, maybe a page long area for you to write in why I should be on a podcast. And then that's going to go to the podcasters. So you're going to be walking down Media Row as an attendee, and you're going to have a Renaissance of Men, or a Cross Politic, or a Dead Men Walking, or a Regular Man podcast, or all these different guys that are going to be there, or an Eschatology Now, and go, hey, we want you on the podcast as an attendee. Why don't you talk about what you're doing? I mean, that is a very cool concept. That's, once again, the Fight Laugh Feast conference is doing what no other conference is doing. This is one of a kind. They started the Beer and Psalms. They started the after party dinner. Now they're starting the attendee guest list to make sure that all the attendees are not only getting exposure, but the listeners of the combined millions of listeners between all these podcasts that are going to be on Podcast Row are also putting out quality content. Podcasters, let me talk to you for 1 second. I know this is kind of podcast heavy, but I am running Media Row, so I'm kind of slanted that way, right? I'm not working with the speakers so much or with the actual event planning, but more the podcasters. You guys know this. If you've been podcasting, I put out a podcast once a week. It's pretty crazy, right? If you're a podcaster, you know that. Twice a week, insane. I know some guys doing 3 times a week. I don't know how that's almost a full-time job. How hard is it for you to get good quality content and guaranteed guests that you know will be speaking to something intelligently, communicating it well, being able to hold a conversation, be able to answer questions? That's what we're doing here. We're going to give you a list of people that go, oh, you want some content? You want some people that are movers and shakers within this industry or within this movement? Here you go. Take your pick. Here's their contact info. Go grab them out of the seat and go interview them on site at the Fight Laugh Feast conference. And it's some way to not only help you create content, but also bring value to your listeners. And that's what we do as podcasters. At least that's what I do. Yes, it's a little selfish. Yes, I get to talk about fun things that I'm curious about because it's my podcast and that's what I do. But I'm also hoping at the top of the list, I'm bringing value to the listeners. I'm bringing content that's valuable to the listeners. The day I stop doing that and I'm just filling 30, 40, 50 minutes, 60 minutes and I just got to go through the motions once a week. Well, then I hang up the headphones. I mean, that's just dumb, right? So that's something new that Fight Laugh Feast is doing this year. First time I've ever heard a conference doing that. So Fight Laugh Feast Prodigal America from October 31st to November 2nd. Get your tickets at flfnetwork.com. I'll post the link below after I get off of here so you can click on that and check it out. They're going to be looking at the attendees for possible guests on Podcast Row. Here's another thing. I don't think I've ever been to a conference that has had as many podcasters and media outlets in one section as the Fight Laugh Feast conferences. Let me say that again because that's important. I don't think there's another conference out there that puts this much importance and has that many media personalities. When I say media, I'm talking podcasts, TV shows, streaming shows, streaming platforms, news anchors, journalists, right? They're all going to be on Media Row. That's why we're not calling it Podcast Row. Yes, there's a lot of podcasters there, but you're going to have actual media personalities and media people there that might do something streaming on Blaze TV, that might do Christian streaming content like Lore.tv, that do podcasts, that are on even conservative shows like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro and stuff like that. All those connections are going to be there. So you have this powerhouse of a Media Row just broadcasting out to, I'm telling you, combined, I'm looking at the numbers, tens of millions of listeners, all going out, all uniform, all talking about kind of the same things within the Fight Laugh Feast world. And they're all going to be there for 3 days in one area. And now not only are they bringing you some of the great speakers that will be at the conference, like David Reese, like James White, like Doug Wilson, like Dusty Devers, like Toby Sumner, like Chocolate Knox, like Gabe Wrench, like Steve Dace, like George Grant, like Darren Doan. They're also going to be bringing you attendees that are doing something very specific in their industry or their part of the world that brings value that you need to know about in broadcasting that out as well. And then, of course, I'm sure there'll be some cross promotion between media outlets and podcasters as well. You're going to see me bringing on other podcasters that you never heard of, that you may not listen to, that you go, I should tune into them. That's what they're doing in their part of the world. So this is very exciting because there's no other conference like this. That's why I go to these every year, because I've went from 12 people listening in April of 2020 to 50 to 75,000 downloads in a month. And I attribute much of that to Cross Politic legitimizing me in 2020, bringing me into the fold and saying, yeah, attend these conferences, come talk about it. What guests do you need on? How can we help out? Right. And you got to realize out of the Fight Laugh Feast network, you've got guys like Pengo Media now that help with guests and podcasters connecting. That's Gabe Wrench's company that does that. Dropwave.io, we're a hosting site for podcasters that won't pull your podcast RSS feed because you're talking about COVID or something, like they were censoring back in the day. So there's all these things that's happened out of the Fight Laugh Feast movement. AR 500, self-defense, body armor, weaponry from David Reese. I think T-Rex Arms is going to be there and is a great sponsor. Talking about different, gun manufacturer and wholesaler and things like that. So we've got all these crazy sponsors all kind of pulling in the same direction at Fight Laugh Feast. And then layered on top of that, you're singing psalms, you're worshiping the Lord, you're having a drink if you so want to. At the after party, there's networking. The business luncheon is insane. When you guys got like Andrew Crappyshuts from Red Balloon, in the past being there and saying, "Oh, this is how I've grown this small business to this large scale business." You've got networking there. You've got connections in your industry. I'm excited to go because I know some of these guys will be expanding into the Midwest. They're going to need a real estate broker. I'm going to be talking about them investing in, buying, purchasing, leasing real estate. That's for my business and how I feed my family, right? Covenant Real Estate. So yes, I'll be there to glorify the Lord and hear good speakers. I'm also going there as a business owner that knows that I'm going to be networking with guys that think the same way, that have the same mandate, that want to glorify God in the building of their business. Those are guys I want to partner with, right? I don't really want to partner with the pagans. If I have to in some way, and I believe me, I have, I have clients that technically I am partnering with when I work for a client as a broker, where we have differing worldviews, right? I want to be working with guys that are on the same page with biblical principles, characters of God, things like that. So Fight Laugh Feast, Prodigal America is good for that as well too. So even if you're like, hey, I have no interest in the business part of it, I just want to come and hear some of the most intelligent, thought-provoking, charismatic speakers I've ever heard of that aren't a celebrity walking around in their three-piece suits and thinking they're too good to talk to you. If you want to hear that and hear down-to-earth, exciting speakers that are going to roam around and visit with the attendees and the podcasters and the media outlets, well, then that's why you come. If you go, yeah, I've been to that kind of stuff before, and all those guys you listed, I've heard talk before, I'm not even really sure how much more I could learn from them, that's fine. Come for the business side of it. Because the businesses and the 60 to 70 plus sponsors that will have tables set up there, moving merch and talking about their products and their services and networking. Look, I went last year and I found a guy that does meat packaging. And you're like, what? And he does sells whole cows and whole goats, right? And I do a lot of that. I got 2 freezers that are full of food. I had a connection there with him. I've turned him out. I've sent a couple people to him and he's 10 states away from me, but I made that connection. I'm supporting that brother. If he can freeze the meat and ship it to me next day and it's the same price as using the guy down the road that isn't a believer, I'm sorry. I'm all about, buying local, but I'm also all about supporting believers in the Lord. And that was something where you make a weird connection and you go, okay, I go to a Fight Laugh Feast conference. Next thing I know, I'm buying whole cows. Hey, it is what it is. I'm at a Fight Laugh Feast conference. Next thing I know, I'm networking with a guy on where to get my magazines for my ARs. What? I go to Fight Laugh Feast Network and I'm not using PayPal anymore. I'm using a Christian PayPal. I go to Fight Laugh Feast Network and I'm not going to my local cigar shop and buying cigars. I'm using 1689 cigars. Like it'll just blow your mind how many connections you can make there. So Fight Laugh Feast Network, go to flfnetwork.com. I'll link it up below. We are in Fort Worth, Texas at the Will Rogers Memorial Center from October 31st to November 2nd. It's going to be a Reformation Day weekend. It's going to be, there's going to be fighting, laughing, and feasting. When I say fighting the pagans, fighting the secularists, we're all pulling in the same direction in that. And we do a lot of feasting, guys. I mean, there is good food, good drink, good fellowship, good theological discussions. I mean, sometimes I wish I could just go around with a microphone and sit down at these tables at these after parties and just plop down a microphone and go, okay, you guys talk for the next hour and a half. Some of these thought-provoking conversations that you hear from the attendee, that we just met him 2 minutes ago, and he's having this wonderful conversation with, a Doug Wilson type, or, a James White type, who's, very theological pastor, all these things, or a titan of industry over here, like an Andrew Crapuchettes. And you're like, what is going on? This is blowing my mind. We're bringing all these people together at a, gastropub or Buffalo Wild Wings or wherever the heck we decide to go. And you're just having these real conversations. And most of the time, I just enjoy kind of being a fly on the wall in that, and picking that up, soaking that in. And that's another thing with Fight, Laugh, Feast as well. A lot of times your attendees will just kind of all disperse and go your separate ways, and 5 guys go here, 2 guys go. Every night there's something going on. There's also a VIP 1689 cigar party night going on Saturday night. If you buy a ticket and come down there, you're going to have to talk to me, because we'll have to get you into that, because it's going to be amazing. You have after party on Thursday, Friday, you got stuff going on. So the conference organizers, and I know the Cross Politics guys, their vision was to really make sure we are all meeting and kind of congregating together even after the speakers are done. And this isn't like one of those stuffy conferences too. I mean, it was funny. I wore a jeans t-shirt and a suit coat, kind of relaxed business casual, if you will. And someone went, Greg, why are you wearing a suit coat, man? Come on. It looks great, but you're a t-shirt and jeans guy. And that's what I'm wearing, man. Like, I'm going to be wearing this one. Shut up and let that be your wisdom. Job 13:5. Go buy it on dmwpodcast.com, because sometimes you got to quote scripture to the pagans. Shut up and let that be your wisdom. So I'll be wearing t-shirts like this, and it's there's no one there that's not unprofessional, but the dress is very comfortable. And because they know that you have to be dressed for what it is that you're doing. And we are fighting, we're laughing, and we're feasting. Now, that's not to say you can't wear a suit. If you are a Jared Longshore, I better see you looking great in a suit. That's just Jared Longshore, right? If you are a Toby Sumner, I like to see you in your suit coat. If you're a James White, you better have your bow tie on, right? If you're a Dusty Devers, I like to see in that suit coat. But for the rest of us peasants, us jeans and t-shirt guys, us rowdy podcasters that are down in the trenches, interviewing and setting up and tearing down and smoking cigars and lighting up a pipe and singing psalms. All right. You can come in your jeans and t-shirt. I like it. But anyway, one more time, and then I'll finish up here, because I've been rambling, but I just wanted to say, also singles night, Friday night, singles night, 18 and plus. They've been doing this for a few years as well. If you're a believer, you're a single, and you want to meet other singles and hang out, they're going to have a dinner. They're going to have, some entertainment. That's Friday night. So if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, Greg, I'm not an old guy like you. I'm 22, man. I'm 19. I want to come to this thing. Is there anything for me there? Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a whole night just for singles night. Right. So make sure you put that on the calendar as well too. Like I said, probably over 25 different media outlets and podcasters are going to be there. Right now, over 60 different sponsors set up with all of their products and services. That's going to keep growing. We got an after party. We've got a beer and psalms night. We've got a business makers conference. I mean, it's nonstop. So, I mean, for the price of the ticket, you've got so many options of things to do. You can go strong from Wednesday to Saturday night, really Wednesday night to Saturday evening. And then if you stay a Sunday, I know there's some people that find a local church and will go do a church service. And then even after that, do a Sabbath dinner after that. But very cool. If you are a podcaster, come see me. I've got a little surprise for you that will make it a little less expensive for you to go to this conference if you're out of state or if you're traveling. I need you to come see me, though. DM me, Dead Men Walking Podcast. I'm in charge of Media Row. I'm going to hook you up. All right. If you're a podcaster or media outlet. So Fight, Laugh, Feast, October 31st through November 2nd. FLFnetwork.com is where you can go find tickets. We'll be at the Will Rogers Memorial Center, Fort Worth, Texas. I'm going to be there. That's all you need to know. I'm going to be there. Come say hi. Stop by my booth. We're going to be very mobile this time. I'm traveling from Michigan to Texas. I think most of my interviews will be mobile. I'll have a booth, but I'm going to be doing a lot of walking around with the clip-on road mics and talking to people. But I will definitely be there. Stop by. You know who you are. I want to have you on the podcast. I want to joke around with you. We're going to do live streams. We're going to do pre-records. We're going to be doing all kinds of fun stuff, giveaways. I think we're going to be throwing out some t-shirts to the crowd, some Dead Men Walking t-shirts as well. Sorry, Gabe, I haven't checked with you yet on that, but you're getting some rubber banded up Dead Men Walking t-shirts to chuck out to the crowd. I think I'll be bringing those. Of course, I most likely will be doing, I give a complimentary Dead Men Walking stamped field guide notebook for you to take notes for all the speakers. That's complimentary of Dead Men Walking. We've been doing that for 4 years. I think I'll continue that. But October 31st, November 2nd, get your tickets. They're still available. We still have room. We've got a huge arena. We still got a couple hundred seats left. Get in. And then also with the attendees, we're going to be sending out a survey to you to see why you should be on a podcast, how we can get you on. What are you doing in your corner of the kingdom that is unique, different, enterprising, exciting? We want to hear about it. That'll be coming to you through the Fight Laugh Feast guys shortly. And then, of course, just to run down the speakers one more time, Darren Doan, George Grant, Steve Deace, Gabe Wrench, Chocolate Knox, Toby Sumner, Dusty Devers, Doug Wilson, James White, David Reese. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Uh-oh, look at this. We are – oh, man. Gabe's jumping on here probably to correct me. I said something wrong probably. Gabe, what's up, brother?
What's up, man?
I just get up. I've been rambling for 25 minutes.
Nice. You sent me the link about 30 minutes ago, and I just got it. Like, you got it. If you want me to see things, like, text me. Don't message me on Twitter.
Hey, that's why you and I get along. We're all last minute. I decided to do this at about 12:15, and then I was like 5 minutes before, I was like, I should send a link out to some people. So I apologize. But yeah, we just been talking about how awesome Fight Laugh Feast is going to be. We got a couple hundred people watching between the social media platforms. I've been telling them, look, get your tickets right now. Fight Laugh Feast, FLFnetwork.com, 1031 to 11/2, Will Rogers Memorial Center, Fort Worth, Texas. I mean, the lineup is insane. The after party is insane. The beer and psalms is insane. The networking opportunities for business owners, influencers, entrepreneurs at the business luncheon is going to be insane. The singles night is going to be insane. We're the only conference doing this kind of stuff, guys. That's what I've been telling you for the last 25 minutes. I've been to many conferences. I've been to the National G3, stuffy, a little bit. all the speakers go in their green room. They don't talk to you. Hey, we got our 3-piece suits on. Look we're fight, laughing, and feasting. The speakers are out among you. We got 20 plus, 30 plus media outlet and podcasters that are going to be talking to you. We got the new thing with the attendees. If you think you're doing something exciting, specific, unique, out of this world, and you're part of the kingdom, we're going to send a survey out to you. Why should you be on the podcast? We want to talk to you. I look at the podcasters that are going to be there, Gabe, and the podcasters and media outlets combined are going to be reaching probably close to 5 to 8 million people between all the podcasts. That's insane. Wow. Okay, that's the reach that Fight Laugh Feast has just on Media Row. I'm not talking about the speakers and what they bring in their own right. You know, James White, David Reese, Doug Wilson, Dusty Devers, Toby Sumner, Chocolate Knox, Gabe Wrench, Cross Politic doing a live episode there. That's always fun. Steve Deace, George Grant, Darren Doan. I mean, this is probably one of the best, coolest conferences that you guys have thrown so far, don't you think?
Yeah, and of course, being back in my hometown, my dad was born in Fort Worth, my grandpa was born in Fort Worth, so we got some good roots going back there. So I got I'm excited to bring this back to also a bunch of old friends, my old high school buddies, my old. So I'm excited just also from a personal level. But every year, each conference is different. So it's always for me at this point. It's about 2 weeks before the conference, and like you were on our conference planning call today with us, and it's just like all these details that need to come together and all the hands that are involved in making decisions and bringing things together. You know, who's going to have this for lunch, where we park, where, you know, it's like the logistics at these conferences are actually significantly crazy. And being in Fort Worth, it's where the Will Rogers Event Center, and the location, we have Texas Hall, which is a big 90,000 square foot building. They do gun shows there. Last time I visited, they're actually doing a gun show there, and I was there looking at logistics for our conference, and it was incredible. All the tables of gun merchants and merch that, you know, body armor. I mean, it was amazing what was going on. So we got a really cool event center and location and everything. So I'm pretty excited about it. Of course, having We got more Baptists on stage this year. So Steve Dace is a Baptist. James White is a Baptist. Dusty
Yeah,
Devers is a
Dusty.
Baptist.
Yeah.
So we got some good. The other thing is we have about 20. I haven't checked in a couple of weeks, but last I checked, we had about 27 different denominations represented.
Boom.
So it's super. I'm grateful for that. It's super ecumenical in the sense that friendly fences make good neighbors.
Yeah.
And so when everybody knows where they stand theologically, it's actually better and easier to fellowship with one another. That's how our Baptists and Presbyterians can exist on the stage together, and no one's offended. And we actually can make fun of each other's theology throughout the conference and have some fun. And
Yeah.
so, but also think like the Fight, Laugh, Feast vision of what we're going for. The tagline Fight, Laugh, Feast came in 2016 when we started our show. We were trying to think of like, what's a simple tagline that kind of communicates what we think how the church needs to be thinking right now in our time. And me and Knox were just throwing taglines back and forth to each other, trying to figure things out. And Fight, Laugh, Feast kind of came out of that. And so the church, we really believe that the church actually needs to fight well with each other. Not just culture, which we all agree. We all agree the church needs to fight sin, devil, Satan, and all this stuff. But the church needs to really fight well together. I think one of our biggest issues in the next 10 years, 5, 10, 20 years, this kind of transition that we're seeing in our culture, is that the church needs to better fight well with each other, police its own ranks. There's sin that happens in our camp, and we need to police it. We need to police our own ranks. What was the third thing? And also fellowship across kind of denominational lines. I think those three things are so important. That's what I think fighting kind of encompasses. Is like, we need to fight well together. If we believe iron sharpens iron, well, then let's do it. I put out a tweet a couple weeks ago regarding the Ray Ortlund Twitter battle, whatever. Ray Ortlund said, "Never Trump, this time Kamala, and always Christ," something like that. And I responded and called him a clown. I was like, this is a clown tweet.
Yeah.
And it really was. And I actually had some friends email me and say, you shouldn't have said that. And I'm like, this was the ultimate quintessential Pharisaic tweet.
Yeah.
Because Trump, I'm not defending Trump's abortion stance, which I think is egregious.
But you've been outspoken on, yeah.
If you are going to say never Trump, but I'm going to vote for Kamala,
right?
Who on the moral scale, who is worse for our nation? The Democrat Party represents the party that will emasculate your children, the party that will do abortions up and after birth, and the party that will cheat in elections, the party that multiple times in the last month said they want to take away your First Amendment rights. Hillary Clinton said it. Tim Walz said it. Multiple Democrats had said, "Yeah, we need to check." John Kerry, we need to check the First Amendment rights. So that's a Pharisee. A Pharisee says this is this gnat in the cup is awful, while ignoring the camel. They vote for camels while they trash gnats. And
they're like, get this gnat out of my cup of piss I'm about to drink.
Yeah. While they're happy to swallow.
They ignore the urine in the glass.
So it was a clown tweet because he was tweeting like a Pharisee. I got some private emails off that, and I'm sorry. I explained to him, I was like, this is why I did it. This is what I'm doing. And glad to help on a phone call and talk about it. But this is friends that we'd consider in the big evil world that were emailing me. Right? Yeah. The same big evil world that will put up with Ed Linton plagiarizing his sermons. Yep. Russell Moore doesn't say anything about it. J.D. Greear doesn't say anything about it. And Christianity Today didn't say anything about it. I Googled that. I said, Ed Linton and Christianity Today, and none of it came up. Not one report on all the plagiarized sermons that Ed Linton released. Not one. That's Big Eva. And then secondly, in Big Eva, and so we have problems on our side. We have this weird, like, this whole Christian nationalism discussion is like attracting this weird kind of white boy summer anti-Semitism kind of conversation. and we need to talk about it and go back and forth and sharpen iron and fight each other over and get rid of the sin in our camp. So I'm not saying that we don't have sin in our camp. We do, but Big Eva won't even address the sin in their camp. They refuse to. I mean, Ed Litton's just a very easy recent example. And then secondly, within that kind of fighting thing I was talking about, it's like we need to be able to talk across aisles with one another. Well, Big Eva will write articles. Kevin DeYoung will come out and kind of lightly bash us with the Moscow mood kind of thing. Lig Duncan will call us non-Christians, which he did in an interview.
Sure.
And so they'll address us, but they won't talk to us. And so it's just a for one, it's just basic not loving your neighbor kind of stuff. So we really do need the whole fight thing is a lot bigger than what I just fight, laugh, feast. It's like I want the bigger conversations to be happening, and really do need to fight with each other over disagreements. It's good for the church. It's healthy to iron sharpen iron, and we refuse to do that. The laughter part of this fight, laugh, feast is we came up with the laughter part in the tagline because the joy of the Lord is our strength. We need to fight with joy. We need to fight with joy. God gave us that's actually our strength in battle, not our anger in battle. And there's righteous anger, not our anger battle, but God specifically says the joy of the Lord is your strength. And so we need to recover that belly laugh, kind of joyful spirit that engages culture, engages our friends, that kind of contextualizes how we need to be fighting. The joy of the Lord is our strength. So we need to laugh, and that includes taking back what it means to be a joyful warrior, taking back even comedy, just like stand-up comedy. That includes everything from the kind of the vision of being joyful to the practical areas that we need to take back. And then lastly, fight, laugh, feast. The Lord presents a table in the presence of David's enemies. How much more should we be fellowshipping at home with our saints and our friends and our family and our neighbors? The feasting, we need to recover a vision of what it means to feast. We need to recover. The church has been I think the church has been, I think it's fair to say that we're in agreement that the church has largely been kind of cowardly over the last 40 years of me and your lifetime. I'm 45. And that cowardness has also has kind of crept into how we celebrate God. Like, we don't put wine in communion. We don't have wine at home with the kids. We don't kind of celebrate with the
fullness
and the food and the fullness that God has given us. I mean, in Ecclesiastes 9:7, God commands us. He says, "Go eat and drink." Drink what? Ecclesiastes 9:7, go eat and drink. And we don't do that. And I think part of it is what happens is because God made sharp things in this world. Wine, alcohol is a sharp thing. Sex is a sharp thing. There's all these sharp things in the world that God has created, and we need to wield them well and for God's glory and our good. And you can also, obviously, those sharp things you can hurt people with. Alcohol is a sharp thing. So the fight, laugh, feast vision, I think, has been helpful and encouraging to a broader, it's cross denominational lines. And that's what, I think, for me, fulfilling about doing our conference is seeing kind of that vision actually play out in who signs up, who registers, who comes, who attends, and all that. And we kind of live it out at the conference. I mean, we're fellowshipping,
100%.
beer and psalms, food here, dinners here, luncheons. We encourage everybody to, the beer and psalms is going to open up with, we're going to have, like we did last year, Greg, a sign from each state. So everyone go find each other from Texas. Everyone go find each other from Alabama. So we actually open up beer and psalms and help people kind of connect with each other and find fellowship already in their own neighborhoods in their own state.
Yeah, I still text one of those dudes that I met last year doing that from Michigan. He's in Northern Michigan, and we talk back and forth still to this day. Yeah. Real quick here, we'll wrap this up. But what I was trying to get across too is this is and I'm going to brag on it because you won't, because you're humble and you don't want to seem prideful, but I will. The Fight, Laugh, Feast conferences are one of a kind. They are unique, and they have started something that everyone else is copying. And I will say that because I've seen that, and I've went to other conferences. And I said it earlier in the live stream here too, as well. first to do Barron Psalms. Everyone's doing Barron Psalms or some variation of that now. You guys were the first to make the speakers available to the podcasters and media outlets. Other conferences, hey, go to the green room, and if you get a glimpse of them, maybe you can get a picture. And it was very celebrity-esque and kind of weird. The speakers are down to earth. They're with us, the peasants in the trenches, so to speak, and make it available, right? Also very feast and communal. At other conferences, everyone goes off everywhere else. You guys are very good at, hey, there's 200 people meeting over here. There's 50 people meeting over here. Go get with this group here. And yeah, you can't get 1,000 people all in the same restaurant. I understand that, but also very large groups mingled together, talking to each other, theological discussions. The cigars are flowing. 1689 cigar VIP shout out on Saturday night. Let's do it. So you got to realize that this is a one of a kind thing that I tell people all the time. If you have 15 conferences to choose from, narrow it down to 2, and then throw out the other one and come to Fight Laugh Feast, because there won't be anything else like it. And I've always said, you guys really helped legitimize this podcast in the early years of 2020 when no one else was doing anything else. You said, you want to know what? No, we're Fight Laugh Feasting during COVID in October of 2020, or I think it was September. I can't remember. And allowed us to come down there and podcast. And really, like I said, are you kidding me? 5-month-old podcast. I'm talking to Doug Wilson and Jeff Durbin and Gabe Wrench and Darren Doan and Greg Bonson and boom, boom, boom. And you're like, what is this? Right. And so it's one of those things where everyone is pulling in the same direction, cross-denominational, but we're all pulling in the same direction. When you get down to it, and I talk to attendees and going, what do you think the role of the civil government is? What do you think we should be doing when we're building businesses as Christians? Who is Christ? Who is Christ? And is he king? Like, those questions are all going to be the same. I don't care if they're Baptist, Presbyterian, non-denominational. Yeah. They understand that it's bigger than kind of their little slivers of denomination when we're looking at that. Very quickly, I'll say before we leave, I had the pleasure of, because you said, all the people on the outside, the Moscow Mood, the cross politic is that, Gabe is this, Chocolate Knox is that, and they throw their arrows in there and they're, disparage you and all these adjectives. None of them ever come to these conferences and find out what it's actually about. And the ones that do, I met a guy 2 years ago. I think we were in Tennessee then. And I said, talking to first time here. Cool. How do you know? He's like, I heard someone say that these guys, aren't even Christian, and I wanted to come to the conference based on that. I said, what do you think? He goes, I'm coming every year. Saw him at the Ark Covenant last year. Same guy. He goes, they don't know what they're talking about, these people. This is the most God glorifying Christian brotherhood, singing to the Lord, feasting, fighting. He's like, what is everyone else talking about when they're talking about, Moscow Mood or cross politics said this or that? It's like, because you're not part of it. You don't understand until you actually come there and buy a ticket and come down and understand what it is that we're doing. So I just wanted to do this live stream too, because we're going to be talking about this a lot on Dead Men Walking for the next couple of weeks. We'll be down there, obviously live podcasting. Get your tickets, guys. FLFnetwork.com. It's the Prodigal America Fight Laugh Feast conference at the Will Rogers Memorial Center, Fort Worth, Texas, October 31st through November 2nd. Reformation weekend, baby. It's going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. And and the lineup of speakers is phenomenal. But I've actually got a 2:00 here, so I didn't even think I was going to be able. Yeah, I knew I could talk for an hour. Gabe, final words. What do you got for him as we head out?
No, it's you acknowledged it opens Reformation Thursday. Reformation Day is our starting of the conference, so we got some great reformational psalms that we'll be singing there, and all the booths will have candy for the kids. Why would you not celebrate Reformation Day without candy? So,
right, awesome. All right, guys, thanks for listening to live stream. We'll see you down in Fort Worth, Texas, hopefully at the end of the month. Go get them tickets. FLFnetwork.com. Love you.
Thanks, Greg. I got to go too.